Dlamini, and I'm a child of God. Yes, I'm here as a psychological counselor, but first and foremost, I am a child of God, and I'm here to share my story. I will talk about the mental aspects of things, the topic, basically, I'll cover that, but most importantly, I'm here to share my story. So I've defined mental health as a relationship between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. And this looks like, I've given an example of two people that experience similar life experiences. So you could have two students that both fail a test. One is disappointed and commits to working extra hard for the next one. And the other could think, I can't keep doing this. I'm tired, I work hard, and I keep failing. And they've also been disappointed, but they decide that I'm not gonna do this again. So these are people that have experienced the same stressors, failure, and they respond differently to them. So that is what mental health is, how we respond to life's highs and lows. And I say highs for a reason. It's not just the lows that, oh, my mental health refers to when I'm feeling low and down and I feel like, oh, life is tough. Then me responding to that then explains if I'm mentally healthy or not. It also talks to our highs. When everything is going well in your life, how do you respond to that? This then brings me to talking about mental illness. This is a subject I'm very passionate about because I myself have experienced being mentally ill. And there's normally memes on social media that talk about, oh, the psychology students, of course, will be sick because you're reading about it. So it's like a textbook definition of, yeah, you're going to be ill. You're drowning yourself in that information. I am not sure if that is true or not, but you guys will decide that as I continue to speak. Our mental illness affects our mood, behavior, and thoughts in relation to our mental health. So mental health also looks at your mood, your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. Now, mental illness is when you have maladaptive traits. So you're still feeling, you're still thinking, you're still responding to life's stimuli and just stressors, but how now you're responding maladaptively. It's affecting you. So it's a continuum. You have someone who's mentally healthy on this end and someone who's mentally ill on this end. This one is experiencing life. They're thinking, they're feeling, they're responding to life, and it's maladaptive. Oh, it's healthy, actually, because this is mental health. And then mental illness on this end is you're still experiencing the same things, but you're not coping. You are drowning, and it impacts your social life, it'll impact your work, how you relate to others, your family. It has an impact on that, and that is how we see that, oh, okay, there's a problem here, or this person is struggling and they're mentally ill. The causes of mental illness there's a long list of them. I'll just talk about a few. So there's the biological factors that could cause mental illness. So your genetics, your genes, this is when a person could have a chemical imbalance in their brain or hormonal imbalance. We all know as ladies that when you're PMSing, the symptoms that you feel, you can almost tell that it's almost that time of the month. So those are your hormones at play. The same thing applies with mental illness. We have some mental illnesses that are as a result of a hormonal imbalance, trauma at any stage in one's life. A lot of clinicians will talk about childhood trauma, but sitting here, I think a lot of us can attest to that we still experience trauma as adults, and that could have an impact on how you respond and maybe even result to you being diagnosed with a mental illness. A family history of mental illness. Children with schizophrenic parents have a predisposition to schizophrenia or any other psychotic disorder. This also applies with Alzheimer's and your neurocognitive disorders. So it also goes back to the genes point, genetic makeup, your environment. How is life at home, at work? Sometimes life at home is great, but you at work from 8 to 5, and what is happening there? I just started working, and yeah, it's tough. You go from being a child, from being auntie's baby, to being a subordinate, and there's deadlines, there's timelines, and you're dealing with people. So it's not just the work that you're dealing with, you also need to deal with the personalities at work. So that also could cause a mental illness. A toxic work environment, for example, could cause a mental illness. It is important to note that these are just some of the mental illnesses, and this is not the full spectrum. This is just some of them. I have chosen these because they're normally experienced by people in this age group. And mental illness is not diagnosed by just anyone. So you don't go online and then you Google that I've been feeling sad. I have a low mood. Hey, I'm not eating. You don't do that. A mental health practitioner is the person that's qualified to tell you what's going on. So I do recommend that you guys see those people after this conversation. It could trigger negative emotions. It could trigger a lot, but talk to someone who is qualified. It's nice to have your support structure, your friends, your family. It helps, but talk to someone who's a professional and start treatment if that is what you need. Okay. The symptoms now of mental illness. Again, this is not the full spectrum. These are just the ones that I have chosen to talk about. Your persistent feelings of sadness. This is not just, oh, I burnt my really nice dress when ironing and preparing for church this morning, then I feel sad about it. It's okay, feel sad about it. It's normal, it's within your, we call that, it's life happening. Your persistent feelings of sadness, it's the sadness that won't leave you. So you're just always sad. You don't know why you're sad. I'm just always feeling down and I'm tired. It's a lot. Some will say, "Kuningi, guys, kuningi." You know, this is what I'm talking about. And you're finding it difficult to feel positive emotions. So you're just sad, and that's it. And then your excessive worrying. You have this uncontrollable, and you're just always worrying. It's uncontrollable and it's long-lasting. This speaks to, there's normal worry. Actually, a bit of anxiety is good for us. It keeps us from dangers. It also helps you to prepare. You have a presentation at work, you prepare because anxiety. But now if it's excessive and it's uncontrollable, you keep thinking about this thing. You keep thinking about it. It could be things that have happened before, things that are yet to happen, but you just keep thinking about it and it's stressing you. Now that is maladaptive. I keep using that word. Basically means that it's not serving you. It works against your health. An example. Okay, I'll also talk about mood swings. Now, your extreme mood swings would be an abrupt change from feeling happy to feeling sad. It's not just happiness or sadness, though. You could feel happy now and feel irritable by 12 noon, and you don't know why. So no one's done anything to you. You're still seated here, you're having your food, you're drinking your coffee, but you just feel like, I need to leave this place. Why is she so loud? Why is she, or why are these people laughing? What's so funny? You're irritable. Your mood has changed. So these are extreme mood swings. So your mood does this. It's not stable. A loss of interest in activities normally enjoyed, a low libido, hypersomnia, and insomnia. This is not just you're sleeping more than you normally do or you're sleeping less. It speaks to you sleeping and not resting. So you're getting the required hours, but you don't feel rested when you wake up. That is what insomnia and hypersomnia mean. Then the suicidal ideation. This refers to thoughts, just wishes and ideas about death. So you may not necessarily have a plan to say, I will leave church and then I will take a chemical, for example, and die. But you're just thinking, yeah, just a coma for 6 months, just so I rest. A vacation, just so I leave and just escape. Or I just want to be alone somewhere. You almost want to escape, and if someone gave you the option to say, hey, what about death? You wouldn't think twice and just think, I'm going for it, let's die. So that is what suicidal ideation is. Now the types of mental disorders. Again, this is not all of them, but just a few that I've chosen to speak about today. First, you have your mood disorders. I'll speak about depression. Depression is similar to the symptoms that I've just been talking about. Your sadness, your loss of interest, feelings of emptiness and hopelessness, your sleep disturbances. There's also a change in appetite. So now you're eating more or less, or the food doesn't taste the same. You're not able to enjoy it. You could be depressed. There's types then of depression. There's types of depression. This is just an overall picture of what it looks like, but you could experience depression for different reasons and at different phases of your life. The most common one is a major depressive disorder. So when a person says, I suffer from depression or I am living with a depressive disorder, they normally refer to that one. Again, the specifiers to you being diagnosed with a mental illness, these are just the symptoms. You could be sitting there and thinking, I experience maybe 60% of them. You need to talk to a professional because for them to diagnose you, you must have experienced this for a certain period of time. Your presentation is what they look at. So you don't just look at this and say, yeah, depression. Okay, anxiety disorders. Excessive anxiety and worry I have explained. Panic attacks. This is an abrupt, intense surge of fear or discomfort, and it lasts for a few minutes. So you're experiencing symptoms of anxiety, but in just a few minutes. Normally, the people that experience panic attacks don't remember what was going on. So, and their presentation is different. You could be sitting in a corner, you're trembling, you're shaking, and it's a lot. Just picture a sensory overload. Everything is happening all at once. And you're scared. And it could be you're scared for, there's a reason, or it could be there's no reason. You're just having a panic attack. And you're not able to trace it back to anything that has happened in the morning or the week. It's just a panic attack. It is important to seek professional help and unpack that. So a person could be sweating, palpitations, trembling, and increased heart rate. Then, the third symptom there is feelings of impending danger, panic, or doom. There's people that just always feel like something bad is going to happen. You just wake up and I can just feel it. Something bad is going to happen today. And then tomorrow you wake up again and say, yesterday was a good day, it wasn't as bad, but I still feel like it's coming. It's coming. It's just, yeah. Or with parents, I'm not a parent, so I take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. But with parents is maybe my child is not safe out there. Will Malume get the child on time from school? And it's something that you constantly worry about. Every day you're always thinking, is the child safe? Is the child okay? See, please take the child to the station, and then when they come back, she must find you there waiting. you're always scared and you feel like there's doom, you're panicked. There's something that's going to happen and it's not good, it's something bad. Then this speaks to rumination. You keep worrying about the same thing. Whether it's happened, whether it's happening, or it's yet to happen, you just keep worrying about things that are not really there. Maybe your feelings, the root of you worrying is valid and it's real, but the truth of it is right now you are not in danger, but you're still worried about that and you constantly think about it. I will talk about bipolar disorders next. Okay. I've chosen to speak about 3 symptoms or specifiers of bipolar disorder: your mania, major depressive episode, and psychosis. A manic person has an abnormally elevated mood. They are, I don't know how to describe this, but let me try. You just have a flight of ideas. You keep talking, there's no end. They just keep speaking and speaking and speaking. An inflated self-esteem. So they're very sure of themselves, and it's not constant, so it's not your personality. This is just happening maybe for a week or more, because for you to be diagnosed with a manic disorder or episode, it must have lasted for a week or more. So you don't feel like sleeping. So you're not tired. 3 hours is enough, and you can go for like 2 days functioning. You're on a high, is how we can put it. So you're on a high. Bipolar, I've mentioned, as a mood disorder. So it's either you're here or you're here. Here being manic, here being a major depressive episode, which is why you guys say when someone's angry, une bipolar. It's because they are here. So everything is elevated. Your mood, your symptoms, it's elevated. So you're operating here. And it could last for a week. Can we just take a moment to imagine you not sleeping for a whole week? And in the whole week, you've probably had like 9 hours of sleep, at best. And you're working, so you're not just sitting and you're working, you're thinking, you have these grand ideas, these grand solutions, these big projects that you want to work on, and yeah, it's like, guys, don't you feel it? Like, I want to work, I'm good at this. And they normally practice very risky behavior. I thought I wasn't going to talk about this because we're in church. But normally you are engaging sexually with different partners, so not just one. You could sleep with 3 different people in one day. It's risky, I don't want to say it's an adrenaline rush because that is not what it is, but just shopping sprees, ladies, yes, shopping sprees. You go online and there's no end to it. There's no end. So you could spend a good 30K just on shoes, and sometimes it's money that you don't have. You're just spending because you're on this high. So hypomania it has similar symptoms, but it's just short-lived compared to a manic presentation. And then you have a major depressive disorder. It's a person experiencing symptoms of depression, but not the disorder itself. So you're feeling sad, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling empty, and it's extreme because you crash. So imagine this is you the whole week, and then a few days later you crash. It's painful. I must talk about the pain as a symptom of mental illness as well. It's chronic. I know when we normally refer to terms chronic and all of those for medical conditions, for your arthritis, but imagine being in pain and no one can see it. You don't have a cast. You don't have a known condition to say, oh, I have cancer. You look as beautiful as you guys look, and you are living with pain every single day. You don't know where this pain is coming from. The clinicians could try and explain it, but are they really always accurate? Because what they do is they will psychoanalyze. It's your story, it's your presentation. But at the end of the day, you know what it's like. So mental illness is individualistic. We could experience the same traumas, but respond differently to them. And no person has the right to come and tell you that, oh, I've been depressed before and I read my Bible. Get over it. Oh, you guys aren't strong, your generation. Yeah, you guys are so weak. We were resilient. I mean, it could be, it's true, I don't know. I'm only in my early 20s, but it is your pain and you know what you're going through. So yeah, I was explaining a major depressive episode before I got carried away. Psychotic disorders. The specifiers here are delusions, hallucinations, and negative symptoms. Let me explain what a delusion is. Delusions are fixed false beliefs that conflict with reality. We have a culture that's growing of prophets, anointed prophets that hear from the Lord, and they hear of things that only they know of. You guys don't have that power to hear from it, so they will claim that they have the power to resurrect the dead. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but when it's you doing it and not God through you, then there's a problem. Examples could be the Messiah complex, where people genuinely believe that I have the ability to save. I have everything that God represents in their lives. They think they are able to do that. So it conflicts reality, and there's nothing that you can do to convince them otherwise. If I say I am this, even if you give them like compelling evidence to say it's not true, it doesn't matter. They believe it. They are delusional, and it is an illness. We loosely use the term to say, oh, stop being delusional. Like, are you for real? It is an illness, and it is a specifier for psychotic disorders. We also have hallucinations, and these are sensory. So you could see things that are not there. You could hear things that other people can't hear. You could feel things that other people can't. And it's a sensory experience. So delusions are in the mind. This is what a person believes. I believe this. And then hallucinations are sensory. I see it. So we're in a room like this and someone could be seeing a shadow or a person, and we all can't see that person. They are psychotic. Normally, that is a specifier for psychosis. Negative symptoms just refer to a person who's flat. So this is the emotional aspect of it. So I've talked about your brain, your senses. Now your emotions are also involved in this. And this person may have a difficulty speaking. They show 0 to no emotion, and they withdraw. So they're just not there. They're sitting with us here, but they're not there. They could even dissociate, and dissociation is you're seated here, but you're not present. Everything is happening around you, and you're not present. And you could get home, and it's like, oh, how was the breakfast meeting? And you're like, I vaguely remember going to church for a breakfast meeting, but what really happened? You have experienced dissociation. We also have trauma and stressor-related disorders. The most common one here is PTSD, that occurs when a person has experienced or witnessed trauma. So it could be happening to you, or you could witness it happening to somebody else. And those are the symptoms that you can see. There's your avoidance symptoms. You'll try by all means to avoid thinking about it. So you've experienced a traumatic event, or you've witnessed one. You don't want to, it's not a nice feeling. It doesn't bring positive and good emotions. So it's not something you want to sit and think about. But the problem happens now, even in a safe space, you still don't want to talk about it. It stressed you so much, I'd rather not. So you're avoidant of the symptoms that will trigger that memory. And then there's your re-experiencing symptoms. Flashbacks. You could be a 15-year-old that probably experienced trauma at age 5, and you start remembering. Normally, clients will say, I remember. Each time I see a red building, my emotions, it doesn't sit well with me. Or I just feel this pain that I can't explain. So it's almost like your body is aware of trauma that happened that yet hasn't, how will I put it, your brain will suppress it. So nightmares related to the event, recurrent involuntary and intrusive memories of the traumatic event. So you don't plan, you don't sit and, drop a schedule to say it's 6 today. I'll sit and I'll just process. It happens. You could be in a meeting and you remember, and it of course won't bring up positive emotions. And then your reactivity symptoms, you become hypervigilant, persistent negative emotional states, you detach from others, you struggle to concentrate, and you experience sleep disturbances. Okay, those are all the disorders I will be speaking about today. There are different types, so for each, these are just categories. So that is why it's trauma and stress are related. You're psychotic, there's different types. So for your psychotic disorders, you could be schizophrenic. There's just different types of now the mental illness itself. I will say it again. If you think I might be experiencing this or know of someone who is, see a professional. They will be able to help you. Now, I'll just talk a bit about who Sihle is and my journey living with a mental illness. In 2017, I started seeing a therapist. Not voluntarily, I didn't want to see a therapist. I didn't understand why I had to see a therapist, but I had been sick. Now this was a medical illness. I had a tummy problem, which just wouldn't go away. So in a week, you'd find that I'm admitted in hospital for 2 days. 2 out of the 5 school days, I'm admitted. It then gets to a point where you think, am I even sick? No one said this to you, but am I even really sick? Or is it just I don't want to go to school? And I was in high school at that time. Each doctor, different doctors. So I went to Mbabane Clinic, I went to Women and Children, I went to Medicine, and they all said, Mage, we recommend that she sees a psychologist because there's no medical illness. She's medically fit. Now my tummy was sore. So that frustrated me to no end, that what do you mean there's no problem? So of course, with the first doctor, you think they're just lazy. They should find the problem. Now the second one says it and you're thinking, let's try again. Third opinion, and they still say it's psychological. So in psychology, we call that somatization. You have emotional problems that are manifesting physically. So you have headaches, recurrent headaches, you just have physical symptoms, and the problem isn't necessarily physical, but psychological. I experienced that in 2017, and my aunt said, okay, let's try it. Just one session, just one. And then you'll decide if you want to keep doing it, then sure. I went to see my therapist 2017, beginning of the year. It was okay. I mean, even then I wanted to be a psychologist, of which I'm still not a psychologist. Hopefully we'll get there. But I didn't understand the importance of this for me. A person who is mentally ill or just struggling looked a certain way. So the coma, Pastor Ray talks about that. They looked sick, and I didn't. So why am I seeing this person? Eventually I did, and for 6 months I wasn't speaking. So there's also that reality. You don't just go to a therapist and it's an easy process. You need to find one you're comfortable with, one you trust, for it to work. And therapy is it's not nice. It's beneficial, but it's not real. It's not what we see in the movies where you sit on the doctor's couch and they give you water and tissues and you just speak and it's nice and you leave feeling light. No, because you can imagine you're a 20-year-old or you're a 30-year-old and you've been going about life that way, the way you have, and it's getting to a point where you're not coping. So you need to start speaking. All those 30 years of which you were quiet and you frankly didn't feel the need to speak, you go back and you speak. And normally we don't speak about things that hurt us. The nice things we share with everyone. It's nice, it's easier. But the painful things we keep to ourselves. So for 6 months I wasn't speaking. And then eventually my therapist said to me, it's either we do this or we don't. So the next session, don't come back if you're not going to speak. Just don't. It's not working, and I can't keep taking your money and claiming it with medical aid because this is not serving you. I went back for my session, and I started speaking. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't nice. It was painful because now it feels like you're reliving everything. And these are things that probably happened when you were a child and you have the perspective of an adult. So it's easy to blame yourself and think, why didn't you speak? Why didn't you stand up for yourself? But now this is 20-year-old Sihle talking about 5-year-old me. That's not very fair or kind to yourself. So be mindful of those things. My journey, still seeing my therapist, went to school in 2018. Still experienced the tummy problems, but at least I was speaking. And my medication had started working then to show that it was a psychological problem. 2021, things got bad, not even worse, because I was stable, relatively. Now things got really messy is the word I want to say. I went for my first psychiatric admission in June 2021. I was doing my year 3, a Bachelor of Psychology. I was doing my Bachelor of Psychology year 3, and I went for a psychiatric admission. But it would be nice to start the story there. I started in Manzini. My aunt and I went to Manzini to see the psychiatrist there. You could go there and you won't always see her because there's a lot of us struggling with this, and there's just one of her. As far as I know, I'm not sure if that has changed. There's one psychiatrist in the country. So you can imagine the different hospitals she services. So we realized that this thing won't really work. I started seeing a psychiatrist in South Africa. And yeah, I went for my admission in June. I was started on treatment and I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed with a mental illness. And this is someone who has a psychological background, someone who understands what mental disorders are, but I still struggled. Because yes, you have let's say a depressive disorder, you have anxiety that you're dealing with, and then someone comes and says, oh, you also have PTSD, complex PTSD that you're dealing with, and then someone says to you, oh, you also have a personality disorder, you have a borderline personality disorder. It's like, no, I know what that is, and that is not me. It was a very difficult thing to accept, and I'll get to the reason why I haven't still accepted it, because what the doctor will say to you, what the psychiatrist will say to you isn't necessarily true. We're Christians here, so I can speak about that. It's just, this is how you're presenting at that point. A mental disorder or illness or diagnosis is not your identity. You know who you are. The people around you know who you are. And most importantly, there's a person. God created you for a purpose. God has appointed you. God has anointed you. And that is where you get your identity from. So when you do those affirmations, it's nice to say, I am brave, I am strong, but maybe challenge yourself to now speak scripture. to say God has nothing but good plans for my life. God is faithful. God loves me. He's an all-knowing God. He sees. He's Jehovah El Roi. It just becomes easier as a Christian. I was mad at God. I didn't understand that why would a loving God allow me to experience all of these things? I didn't want to talk to people. I just wanted to stay in my room with the curtains closed and not speak and not wake up to shower, to eat, to even pee. It was just too much. Just the thought of going to the bathroom to pee and come back and sleep was a lot, so I would rather not. Again, my aunt I get that you're going through the most, but at least let's open the curtains and eat and drink water. So 3 things. So I knew when she comes back from work, did you eat? The curtains, water. So you'd find that I'd have like cereal, just 1 biscuit of that Weet-Bix, so I can say I ate. I drank 1 cup of water. I won't tell her that, but I did drink water. And my curtains, that would bother me to no end because I would wake up early just so I could open the curtains and go back to sleep. Because she will come into my room to check if the curtains, and she's not consistent, so she could come on Monday and not come for like 3 days, and then on Friday she's at your door. It's like, why? Anyway, that was 2021. I recovered. I did get better. I was started on medication. So I was on antipsychotics, anti-anxieties, antidepressants, and mood stabilizers. Now that means I was psychotic, I was depressed, I had anxiety, and my mood was not very stable. So when I speak of psychosis and seeing things that you don't know, I know what that looks like. And it doesn't look like that guy on the street. Yeah, frankly, you can tell, no. I still looked nice, I still came to church, but I was seeing things that other people were not seeing. It got to a point where if there was a sound like this one that I can hear this side, I would ask her, can you hear that? And she'd say, yes, sis. And sometimes I knew she couldn't hear it, but it was there. And that wasn't the only thing that I did or the support that I got from my family. We also prayed. Well, they prayed. I was angry at God. Why would I pray? They prayed, and they believed God for healing. That I will emphasize. We know when you guys give up as our parents. We can tell, you don't need to say it. You could be doing everything you've been doing consistently, but we're able to tell that you have given up on us. And I'm here to ask and plead that you don't. The disorders are different. Some are substance use disorders. So a person could be psychotic or depressed because they are abusing alcohol or drugs. And it's easier to say, oh, it's their choice. I mean, just don't do it. We talked about a disorder having an impact on our social lives, mental, psychological. It is an illness. Please don't give up on them. It gets it gets better. But I was saying we prayed. Pastor Bonsile and Pastor Ray were also praying. I didn't think I'd come out of it, honestly. I would get mad every morning, 1, because I had to open the curtains, also because I was alive. Why? What am I alive for? What could I possibly do? What impact will I have on this world? I'm just sick. I have all these disorders, a list of them. And frankly, it is not my doing. So I experienced trauma. It's just, I didn't ask for this. And God, where were you when all of this was happening? Because isn't it your God? Our days are preordained. Why am I experiencing? So this was your plan all along. I mean, I'm still trying to understand that. But I asked my aunt again. And she just explained that there's the concept of free will. So sometimes things happen to us and they were not meant to happen, but they've happened. We all decide what we want to do. I could have decided this morning that I committed to coming to speak, but I don't want to do it anymore. That's my free will. The plan was for me to come, to stand here and speak, and I decided no, I don't want to do it. That is my free will, and it has an impact on you guys. So the same thing happens in life, where you have people that decide, and then we have to deal with the consequences of that, because unfortunately the healing is your responsibility. No one's going to do it for you. No one's coming to save you, is what a friend of mine normally said, and it was harsh at the time, but now I understand. You need to take responsibility. It's not nice. I will repeat. It's not easy, but there's benefits to it, long-term benefits. That wasn't my first or last admission. I went back to Akeso, a psychiatric hospital in South Africa, 2022. And so now I went back a second time. The first time it was, I'm fine, I'm good, I am healed. Oh, the word healing. I am healed. They were praying. God answered my prayers. I was still mad at him, but you almost need to sound politically correct when you're with your aunt and your grandma who pray. So I am healed. Inside I am angry that I don't want to be going through this. Why should I go through all of this? I went back March 2022. Now I was doing my final year. Internship, 6 months long, so you need to be there. I did my university in the University of Botswana, so you need to be in Botswana for 6 months, so you're able to graduate. Now, Sihle's sick, she must go for a second admission in South Africa. So now it's like graduation is not going to happen. And it feels like everything bad is just happening in your life. I'm already sick, I'm not going to graduate. What will the people say? My classmates, my family, and my granny who's been talking about graduation since first year. What do I say to her? God, where are you? Are you even there? Or do you have favorites? Do you have your people and then there's just us whom you don't love? Okay, went back for my admission. I came out and it stopped working. So all of these things that I knew worked, all of the things I was dependent on, so my family, my aunt, the doctors, my therapist, it stopped working. Year 2022, it's just last year. It stopped working. And it's like, okay. God got me to a place where I fully surrendered, not because I wanted to, but because there was no choice. You're also not dying. That's the reality of it. I would love to die at that point, but I'm still not dying, and I'm in this pain. And all of these things that I know to work are not working. My first admission was 10 days, the second one was also 10 days, and it didn't work. And if you're in the psych space or just the mental health, you're able to tell this thing did not work. It got to a point where my aunt booked tickets for my graduation in October. I said to her, I am not done. I quit school. I told them to pause this whole thing. I'm going home. What tickets are you buying? What graduation? Unless you have another niece that I don't know of who's graduating, surely it's not me. And she said, Sissy, I have prayed, and I believe God for complete healing. I believe God for you graduating, so you getting your degree. He is faithful. He has been faithful, and he won't stop being faithful now. Sometimes I wish I could just punch her. Just punch some sense into her, because what are you talking about? Like, do you not see the situation? Am I the only person who sees this? Then again, you're the one living with this pain. This is your reality every single day. You are psychotic. My aunt talks of an episode, is what I'll call it, where she says there's rock bottom and then there's rock bottomer, where you keep digging. I think that was the day for her. Mind you, I'd have episodes and I'd go to your medicines just to stabilize you, because imagine you haven't been sleeping for days and they just need to sedate you so you can rest. And they also got to a point where they had tried everything humanly possible. They had tried and said, Mage Kumalo, please take her home. For the doctors to tell you, take her home. And then they ask again that, but where will you take her? Like, we can't keep her here any longer because it's not working. But also, where will you take her? And she would say, I am taking her home. Yeah. And then you have a lot of people speak. So you'll have people ask you, actually not even ask, they suggest. Some told me you have a spiritual calling, you need to go and pasa. Some said, I know a man, this side. He can help you. He's dealt with situations like this. He knows his thing. And in times of desperation like that, it would have been easy, really, even for me. I would just go. I wouldn't tell anyone where I was going. But the point I'm trying to make is, even though everything was dark and hopeless, I still knew that God could do it. Maybe not for me, but for other people he could do it. So I just then hope that, Lord, count me in. Just please count me in, because I am not dying. I get a call from my school, beginning of August. The deadline, the grad application deadline has passed, so you just know for sure you're not graduating. You know for sure you're not graduating. My HOD calls me, she says, Sipe, how are you, ma'am? I'm like, I'm fine, ma'am. And she says, yeah, I need you to submit your portfolio, your internship portfolio. And I say to her, what internship portfolio? Because I am done, I quit, what are you talking about? She says, I know you have something. It's just you want a good grade, a perfect score, but submit what you have. I have talked to the faculty administrators, but I've made a plan. You need to graduate. And I said, I'm not getting my hopes high. My Tswana friend had come to visit, so we worked on it. I submitted. Even then, it's, God, you just want to, you're joking around, you're making a fool of me, you want me to get hopeful and then burst that bubble of happiness. I submit and I never get a response whether I'm graduating or not, because online the system has closed for application deadlines. Even then, my aunt has booked everything at that point, your accommodation, your flights, everything is booked because we're going for graduation. It's like, you need to get a dress, start finding a design. I'm like, this woman, okay, I do it. But to cut the long story short, eventually I do graduate, and God says this is only the beginning. This is not the end. This is only the beginning. And you have completely surrendered to my will, because all the things you were dependent on have failed. So you know for sure, you know that it is God, because no human could have done that. I do graduate, and I don't like thinking up. You'd think it was a glorious day. I was so happy and bright. I was sick, anxiety. And not for the day. I don't have an explanation for what was going on. But a week after my graduation, I'm admitted again in South Africa. But I mean, now I'm a graduate, so it's not that bad. I'm admitted again in South Africa, and the doctors are doing tests and scans, your CT scans, your MRIs, the full spectrum, because I have started to seizure. So I will seizure, and then I wake up and I don't know what had happened, but the bed is wet, so it's like, surely it's not what I think it is. It's bad, and even then you're thinking, how am I going to work? How am I going to stand in front of my clients and speak? Because I surely haven't earned the right. I also used to self-harm. So I have all these marks on my arm. And some clients would ask, even in therapy during my internship, to say, oh, so you self-harm? And you're thinking, well, I don't know. It is what you think it is. But even then, you just don't think you're qualified to do that work, to speak in front of people. And God is faithful. I'm just here to say that today. I mean, you can forget everything else. God is faithful. I know that through my life. And so I'll just quickly go through this, that as the family, or you could be the family, you could be the friend, really. Maybe this is your child, maybe this is your sister. Just be firm but loving. Do it with love. Just do this, but love me. That's it, the love. Because at that point, this person feels like a burden. They see how expensive this thing is, and it's just easier to die. Be firm but loving. Believe that your loved one will recover. We know when you've given up. Just keep believing. It's probably bad, or it's just there's no hope, but keep believing. So stand in the gap for them. Pray over their lives and just stand firm. Be their safe space. So that days where they'll feel like talking, that days where they won't feel like talking, don't take offense. To say, oh, Amusha, you want to talk? Yes, I'm here, let's talk. Tomorrow I may not want to do the same thing. Just be their safe space and be patient, please. Seek professional help. The funding, it is expensive. It is expensive. That is the reality of it. So if you can, please also help financially. The medication that I was taking monthly it would range from 5,000 to 6,000 every month. Not to talk about the admissions, because no. So this is monthly, and you're still seeing a psychologist and a psychiatrist. At the time, consultation is 1.5 for a psychologist, 1.7 for a psychiatrist, and the medical aid has elapsed. But you're sick. You've been sick since January. Now we're in September. It is expensive. If you can, please really fund that. Don't be in denial. So I did talk about this different disorders. Some of you have maybe kids with learning disabilities. It is a disability, or autism, just your neurodevelopmental disorders. It's not a death sentence. It's not their identity. They need help. They need professional help. So please try not. You could also see talk to someone about your struggle to accept that. Yes, don't be judgmental. Be a good listener, even in the silence. Just be there and give hope. You don't then try, at least, not to wake up and think, yes, it's bad. I think this is the end as well, because the only person you're literally depending on is your caregiver. You draw strength from them, and I acknowledge that it can be tiring, even for you. So seek the additional help, even for yourself. Now, this is to the people living with a mental illness. Mental illness is not your identity. You're not imagining, faking, or exaggerating the illness. It is real. You will not always feel this way. It gets better. I am living proof of that. You're not a burden, but a blessing. Keep holding on. So my lecturer at some point used to say to me, you want to die, postpone it to tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. So keep holding on, and your story is valid. There's no significant trauma that this is real trauma and then this is not. Every story is valid, and God loves you. Thank you.